I learned 3 things about survival before I turned 23. 1. Keep your head down at family gatherings. 2. Never let them see you bleed. 3. When Dante Corelli's girlfriend decides to humiliate you at Christmas dinner, you smile through the venom and pray you make it to dessert. I was failing at all 3. The Corelli estate sprawled across the hillside like a sleeping beast. All white marble and iron gates that seemed designed to keep secrets in rather than strangers out. I'd been coming here since I was 16, back when my father still had a pulse and a seat at their table. Back when the Corellis needed his shipping connections and overlooked the fact that his daughter had burn scars crawling up her left arm like twisted vines. Now, 7 years after a warehouse fire took my father and nearly took me, I was here out of obligation. A courtesy invite. The kind that said we remember you exist without actually wanting you to show up. I should have stayed home. Oh, Elena. Vanessa's voice dripped across the dinner table like poisoned honey. She was draped in crimson silk that matched her lipstick, one manicured hand resting possessively on Dante's shoulder. I simply must know where you got that dress. It's so brave of you to wear sleeveless. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward me. The dress was navy blue, simple, elegant, and yes, sleeveless. Because I'd spent 7 years learning to stop hiding, learning that the scars were proof I'd survived something that should have killed me. But in Vanessa's world, survival was just another word for damaged goods. It's from a boutique downtown, I said evenly, cutting into my lamb with more precision than necessary. You wouldn't know it. Her laugh was crystalline and cruel. Oh, I'm sure I wouldn't. Though I have to say, darling, some of us are fortunate enough not to need to make statements with our clothing choices. Across the table, my mother's face had gone white. She knew better than to defend me here, in the Corelli stronghold, where power was currency, and we were essentially broke. Vanessa. The voice came from the head of the table, low and absolute. Every conversation died. Dante's father, Lorenzo Corelli, the man who'd built an empire on blood and secrets, set down his wineglass with deliberate care. But he wasn't looking at Vanessa. He was looking past her, toward the doorway. That's when I saw him. Dante's older brother, the ghost of the family, the one they whispered about in the same breath as they crossed themselves. Alessandro. He stood in the arched entrance like a Renaissance painting come to life, all dark suit and darker eyes, his presence somehow managing to make the cavernous dining room feel suffocatingly small. I'd seen him exactly twice before, once at my father's funeral, where he'd stood at a distance, stone-faced and silent. Once at a charity gala 3 years ago, where he'd looked through me like I was invisible. Now those eyes gray as winter storms were locked directly on me. No, not on me. On my scars. Heat crawled up my neck. I wanted to cover my arm, wanted to disappear into the floor, wanted to be anywhere but pinned under that calculating, unreadable stare. Alessandro. Lorenzo's voice carried weight. You're late. Traffic. He moved into the room with the fluid grace of something predatory, pulling out the empty chair. Of course it was empty. They always left it empty directly across from me. I see the entertainment has already started. Vanessa's smile faltered. We were just having a friendly conversation. Were you? Alessandro's gaze finally left my arm, sliding to Vanessa with the kind of cold assessment that made her spine straighten. It sounded more like you were compensating for your own insecurities by attacking someone who has more courage in her scarred arm than you have in your entire perfectly preserved body. The silence that followed could have shattered crystal. My heart was doing something complicated in my chest, part shock, part fury at being defended like I was helpless, part something else I didn't want to name. Alessandro. Dante cut in, his voice tight. Vanessa didn't mean. Yes, she did. Alessandro reached for the wine bottle, poured himself a glass with movements that suggested he had all the time in the world. She meant every word. The question is whether your father is going to allow this kind of behavior at his table, or whether standards have dropped since I left. Lorenzo's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Pride, maybe. Or calculation. Vanessa, he said quietly. Apologize. What? She looked between Lorenzo and Dante, her face flushing scarlet. I was just... Now. The word was soft. Absolute. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed, like a landed fish. Then, with visible effort, she turned to me. I apologize if I offended you. If. I should have accepted it. Should have nodded graciously and let it go. Instead, I met Alessandro's eyes across the table and said, Don't apologize to me because you were told to. Apologize because you're a small person who uses other people's pain to make yourself feel bigger. The room held its breath. Vanessa's face went from red to white. Dante stood abruptly, his chair scraping against marble. "You need to leave. She's not going anywhere." Alessandro's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. He was still seated, still relaxed. But something in his tone made Dante freeze mid-motion. "In fact, Elena is going to finish her dinner. And then she's going to have dessert. And anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me." "Alessandro," Lorenzo started. "No." For the first time, Alessandro looked at his father. "I'm done watching this family tear apart everyone who isn't part of the inner circle. She's suffered enough. If Vanessa can't keep her poison to herself, she can leave." Dante's hand was still on Vanessa's shoulder, but his eyes had gone hard. "You think you can just walk in here after 3 years and start making demands?" "I think," Alessandro said softly, "that I just did." The brothers stared at each other across the table. A war fought in silence, layered with history I didn't understand. Finally, Dante pulled Vanessa from her chair. "We're leaving." They swept from the room in a hurricane of rage and silk, leaving behind a vacuum of tension. Alessandro lifted his wineglass toward me. "To survivors," he said. I didn't touch my glass. "I didn't need your help," I told him, keeping my voice steady despite the fact that my hands were shaking. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. "I know. That's why I gave it." And somehow, that answer terrified me more than anything Vanessa had said, because Alessandro Corelli didn't do anything without a reason, and I had the sinking feeling I'd just become part of whatever game he was playing. They say the devil doesn't announce himself with fire and brimstone. He offers you champagne and asks if you need a ride home. Absolutely not. I pushed back from the table, my chair making an ungraceful scraping sound that echoed through the now half-empty dining room. Most of the guests had dispersed after the Vanessa incident, scattering like expensive debris after a storm. Alessandro remained seated, watching me with that unsettling calm that seemed to be his default setting. "Your mother already left with the Russos, and unless you plan to walk 15 miles in those heels, I'll call a car. At 11 p.m. on Christmas Eve?" He tilted his head slightly. "Good luck with that." I hated that he was right. Hated more that my phone was already dead because I'd forgotten to charge it. Too anxious about tonight to remember basic human functions. Lorenzo had vanished into his study with several men in dark suits. The staff moved through the dining room like ghosts, clearing plates with practiced efficiency, pointedly not making eye contact with either of us. "One ride," Alessandro said, standing. He moved with that same predatory grace, buttoning his suit jacket. "I promise not to kidnap you or involve you in any criminal activities. Scout's honor." "Were you ever a scout?" "No." The corner of his mouth lifted. "But I thought it might be reassuring." It wasn't, but I also didn't have many options, and pride was a luxury I couldn't afford tonight, not when my hands were still trembling from adrenaline, and Vanessa's words kept replaying in my head like a song I couldn't escape. "Fine," I said. "But I'm texting my mother your license plate." "With what phone?" I wanted to throw something at him. His car was exactly what I expected. A black Mercedes that probably cost more than my apartment. All leather interior, and that new car smell that screamed money. He opened the passenger door without ceremony, waited until I was seated, then closed it with careful precision. The gesture felt oddly old-fashioned. Dangerous men playing at chivalry. He slid into the driver's seat, and suddenly the spacious car felt too small. He smelled like expensive cologne and something else, gunpowder, maybe, or just the particular scent of power. "Address?" he asked, starting the engine. I gave it to him, watching his profile as he pulled away from the estate. The gates opened automatically, like they recognized him, knew he belonged. We drove in silence for several minutes, the city lights sliding past the windows like liquid gold. Christmas decorations glittered from every storefront, cheerful and oblivious. "You didn't have to do that," I said finally. "Back there." "Do what?" "Defend me. Make Dante and Vanessa leave. I've been handling people like her my entire life." "I know." He took a turn smoothly, not looking at me. "I saw you at the charity gala. 3 years ago. Some society woman made a comment about your scars. You smiled at her and said they were from fighting a dragon, and that she should see what the dragon looked like." My breath caught. "You remember that?" "I remember a lot of things I shouldn't." The admission hung in the air between us, weighted with meaning I couldn't quite parse. "Then why tonight?" I asked. "Why step in?" His jaw tightened, barely perceptible in the dashboard lights. "Because Vanessa isn't some ignorant society wife. She's Dante's weapon. Everything she says is calculated to serve his interests. And tonight, making you feel small served whatever game he's playing with our father. I don't understand." "You're not supposed to." He glanced at me then, just briefly. Your father had something the family needed. Shipping routes, connections, leverage. When he died, those assets disappeared. But you're still here. Still showing up to family dinners. Still. He paused. Still surviving. Cold understanding crept down my spine. You think I have something? I think, Alessandro said carefully, that my brother thinks you have something. And that makes you either very valuable or very dangerous. I'm neither. I'm just a girl with scars who refuses to disappear. His voice was soft, almost gentle. In my world, that makes you a threat, or a pawn. And Vanessa's performance tonight was about reminding you which one you are. My apartment building appeared in the windshield, a modest structure wedged between two nicer developments. The contrast between this and the Corelli estate was almost laughable. Alessandro pulled to the curb but didn't unlock the doors. What did your father have? He asked. I don't know what you're talking about. Elena. The way he said my name made something in my chest constrict. I defended you tonight. That puts a target on both our backs. So I need you to be honest with me. Did your father leave you anything? Papers, keys, codes, passwords? He left me debt, I said flatly. And a warehouse full of ashes. That's it. Alessandro studied me for a long moment, those gray eyes searching for lies. Whatever he saw must have satisfied him because he finally unlocked the doors. I reached for the handle, desperate to escape the confines of the car and his scrutiny. Elena. His hand caught my wrist, not hard, but firm enough to stop me. His fingers were warm against my pulse point, and I hated that my heart rate spiked at the contact. If anyone approaches you, if anyone asks questions about your father, about his business, about anything, you call me. I don't have your number. He released my wrist, pulled out his phone, and held it toward me. Put yours in. My hands shook slightly as I entered my number. He called it immediately, and my dead phone buzzed uselessly in my purse. Charge it, he said. Keep it charged. Why are you doing this? The question escaped before I could stop it. Vulnerable. Needy. Alessandro was quiet for a moment, his hands resting on the steering wheel. When he spoke, his voice carried something I didn't expect. Regret. Because 7 years ago, there was a fire at your father's warehouse, and I'm the one who ordered it. The world tilted. What? But he was already looking past me, his expression shifting from regret to something cold and alert. Get inside, he said quietly. Now, don't turn around. Just walk straight to your building. Alessandro. Now. The command in his voice made me move. I stumbled out of the car, my legs unsteady, my mind reeling from his confession. I made it 3 steps before I heard it. The soft metallic click of a gun being cocked, and Alessandro's voice, deadly calm. I was wondering when you'd show up, Marcus. Tell Dante his timing is as subtle as ever. Time fractures differently when you hear a gun. 1 second I was processing Alessandro's confession. I ordered the fire, and the next I was being yanked backward against a solid chest. His arm locked across my ribs like an iron bar. Don't move, he breathed against my ear. A man emerged from the shadows between 2 parked cars. Tall, lean, with the kind of face that looked ordinary until you noticed the absolute emptiness in his eyes. The gun in his hand caught the streetlight, casual as a cigarette. Alessandro. Marcus, if that was his name, smiled without warmth. Dante said you might be difficult about this. Dante says a lot of things. Alessandro's voice was conversational, but I could feel the tension coiled in his body. Most of them are bullshit. He wants the girl. The girl has a name, and she's not going anywhere with you. My mind was racing, trying to catch up. The fire. Alessandro ordered the fire that killed my father, and now someone else wanted me, and I was standing in the middle of a street with a gun pointed somewhere in our general direction. And, breathe, Alessandro murmured. Just breathe. I realized I wasn't. This doesn't have to get messy, Marcus said. Just give her to me. You go back to whatever hole you've been hiding in for 3 years. Everyone's happy, except her. She's not your concern. I'm making her my concern. Alessandro's arm tightened fractionally. So here's what's going to happen, Marcus. You're going to lower that weapon. You're going to walk back to whatever car Dante sent you in. And you're going to tell my dear brother that if he wants Elena Romano, he can ask her himself. Like a civilized human being, Marcus laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. You think you're still bulletproof? You think the family still fears you? No, Alessandro said softly. I think you still fear me. And you should. Something shifted in the air. A darkness that seemed to emanate from Alessandro himself, turning the man holding me into something colder, sharper. I felt it in the way his heartbeat slowed, steady and controlled. Predator recognizing prey. Marcus felt it too. His smile faltered. 3 seconds, Alessandro said. Then I stopped being polite. Dante will. 2. Marcus took a step back. 1. The gun lowered. Smart choice. Alessandro's voice warmed by precisely 1 degree. Now leave. Marcus hesitated, his eyes flicking between us. Then he backed toward a dark sedan idling at the corner, weapon still in hand but pointed at the ground. We stood frozen until the car pulled away, taillights disappearing around the corner. Only then did Alessandro release me. I spun to face him, adrenaline and rage and terror colliding in my chest. You killed my father. Yes. No excuses, no justifications. Just that single word, delivered like a surgical cut. Why? My voice broke on the question. Because Lorenzo ordered it. He was watching me with that same unreadable expression, but something in his eyes suggested the answer cost him. Your father was skimming, taking products meant for our distribution and selling them independently. It was a death sentence the moment Lorenzo found out. So you lit him on fire? The fire was meant to destroy evidence. Your father wasn't supposed to be there. Alessandro paused. You weren't supposed to be there. The scars on my arm burned with phantom heat. I remembered that night in fragments the smell of gasoline, my father shouting at me to run, the way the flames had moved like living creatures, hungry and fast. I went back for him, I whispered. I heard him screaming. Alessandro's expression finally cracked. Just a fracture, but enough to show something raw beneath. I know. I pulled you out. The world tilted again. What? You were unconscious. Smoke inhalation. I carried you 3 blocks before the fire trucks arrived and left you where they'd find you. He took a step closer, and I should have moved back but couldn't. You asked why I'm doing this? That's why. I've been trying to keep you alive since the night I nearly killed you. My thoughts were a tangled mess. The anonymous person who'd saved me that night had haunted my nightmares for years. A shadow with strong arms and a voice telling me to stay awake, stay with me. I'd never seen his face through the smoke. You've been watching me, I said. Yes. For 7 years. Yes. I didn't have words. Couldn't decide if it was protection or obsession, penance or something darker. Insane, Alessandro supplied. Inappropriate, creepy. Pick your adjective. All of them. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly freezing despite the mild night. And now your brother wants me because? Because he thinks your father told you something before he died, or left you something. Or, Alessandro ran a hand through his hair, the first genuinely frustrated gesture I'd seen from him. I don't know what Dante thinks. He's been consolidating power since I left, making moves Lorenzo doesn't see coming, and somehow you're part of it. I'm not part of anything. I work at a bookstore, I pay my bills, I visit my mother on Sundays. I'm nobody. You survived. His voice was fierce, suddenly, intense. You survived me. That makes you dangerous. A car turned onto our street, headlights sweeping across us. Alessandro immediately positioned himself between me and the vehicle, his hand moving to his waistband where I now realized he also carried a gun. But the car passed without slowing. You can't go home, he said. Marcus knows where you live. They all do. Then where? With me. Absolutely not. Elena. He turned to face me fully, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes that looked almost like fear. My brother just sent an armed man to collect you. This isn't a game. This isn't about pride or independence. If you stay here, you're dead by morning. And if I go with you, what then? You're the man who killed my father. I know. His jaw tightened. And you can hate me for it, but hate me alive. A breeze kicked up, scattering dead leaves across the pavement. Somewhere in the distance, church bells chimed midnight. Christmas was over, and I was standing at a crossroads, choosing between a past that wanted me dead and a future held in the hands of my father's killer. One night, I heard myself say, and then we figure this out. Alessandro nodded once. One night. He moved toward the car, and I followed. I didn't look back at my apartment building. Didn't let myself think about what I was walking away from. But as I slid into the passenger seat, I noticed something. Alessandro's hands were shaking, just barely. But enough to prove he wasn't as controlled as he pretended. Enough to prove that whatever game we were playing, he was just as trapped in it as I was. Alessandro's safe house wasn't a house at all. It was a penthouse that occupied the entire top floor of a building downtown. All floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture that probably cost more than my yearly salary. The kind of place that screamed money so loudly it didn't need to whisper. Guest room is down the hall, he said, locking 3 separate deadbolts behind us. Second door on the left. There's clothes in the closet that should fit. I stopped in the middle of the entrance, taking in the space. Everything was sharp angles and cold surfaces, marble, steel, glass. Beautiful in an untouchable way. Like him. Whose clothes? I asked. No one's. He moved past me toward the kitchen, which was all black granite and chrome appliances. I keep things here for situations. Women who need a place to disappear for a while. He pulled out a bottle of whiskey, poured 2 fingers into a glass. Before you ask, no. They're not lovers. They're problems I've solved. How comforting. He didn't smile. You want the truth or pretty lies, Elena? Because I'm too tired for the second one. I was tired too. Exhausted, actually. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind a hollow ache that went bone deep. But sleep felt impossible with my mind still churning through revelations. He killed my father. He saved my life. His brother wants me dead. I moved to the windows instead, looking out over the city. From this height, everything looked small, manageable, the lie of distance. Why did you leave? I asked without turning around. 3 years ago. Everyone said you vanished. Silence stretched behind me. Then the soft clink of glass on granite. I killed someone I shouldn't have, Alessandro said finally. Lorenzo's business partner. A man who'd been with the family for 20 years. I turned to face him. He was leaning against the counter, the whiskey untouched, his expression carved from stone. Why? Because he liked hurting women. Young women. And Lorenzo was willing to overlook it for the sake of profit. His voice was flat, emotionless, the kind of tone that suggested the opposite, that he felt everything and had learned to bury it. So I put a bullet in his head. And Lorenzo gave me a choice, exile or war. You chose exile. I chose not to tear the family apart. There's a difference. He picked up the glass, studied the amber liquid. But exile doesn't mean I stopped watching, stopped caring what happened to people who deserved better than what my family offers. People like me. Yes. The word hung between us, heavy with implication. I should have been afraid. Should have been demanding he take me to a police station, a hospital, anywhere but here. Instead, I found myself asking, what did my father tell you? Before the fire? Alessandro's eyes snapped to mine. What makes you think he told me anything? Because you keep saying everyone thinks I know something. But you're the one who was there. You're the one who... I couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't say killed him again. He set the glass down carefully. Your father said 3 words before he lost consciousness. Protect my daughter. My throat tightened. That's it? That's it. Alessandro moved closer, and I forced myself not to retreat. No codes, no secrets, no hidden treasure. Just a father dying and begging the man who killed him to save his child. And you did. I tried. His voice dropped. But I couldn't protect you from the scars. Couldn't protect you from the nightmares. Couldn't protect you from having to rebuild your entire life from ashes. Stop. The word came out sharper than intended. Stop acting like you're some tragic hero doing penance. You murdered my father. I know. You destroyed my life. I know. You don't get to play protector now and pretend it makes up for. I don't want it to make up for anything. He was close enough now that I could see the gold flecks in his gray eyes. What I did is unforgivable. I don't expect absolution, but that doesn't change the fact that Dante wants you dead, and I'm the only thing standing between you and a bullet. Why? I demanded. Why does he want me dead? I don't have anything. Because your father did have something, and 3 days before the fire, he deposited a package at a private security facility downtown. Alessandro pulled out his phone, showed me a photograph of a document. I found the receipt in Lorenzo's files tonight. Rental agreement for a safety deposit box, paid for 10 years in advance. Your name is listed as the only authorized accessor. My heart stopped. I don't know anything about a box. Your father made sure of it. It's keyed to your fingerprint. Has been since you turned 16. He swiped to another image, a rental agreement with my signature. Except I'd never signed it. He forged this, I whispered. Yes. Which means whatever's in that box, he wanted to make damn sure only you could get to it. Alessandro's expression was grim. And Dante figured it out. That's why he had Vanessa humiliate you tonight. He wanted to see if you'd crack. Admit you knew about it. And when I didn't, he sent Marcus. I sank onto the leather sofa, my legs suddenly unreliable. What's in the box? I don't know. But it's important enough that Lorenzo's been searching for it for 7 years. Important enough that Dante is willing to start a war to get it. Alessandro crouched in front of me, putting us at eye level. And important enough that your father died protecting it. The weight of it settled on my shoulders like a physical thing. All this time, I'd thought the fire was random, punishment for my father's crimes, but it had been about some secret I didn't even know I was keeping. We get the box, I said. We find out what's in it. And then we decide if it's worth dying for. Alessandro studied my face for a long moment. Then he reached out, his fingers brushing the edge of my scarred arm. The touch was feather-light, questioning. I didn't pull away. Your father loved you very much, he said quietly. Whatever's in that box, he thought it was worth your life. He was wrong. My voice was stronger than I felt. Nothing is worth my life. Not secrets, not revenge, nothing. Good. Alessandro stood, offering me his hand. Then we're on the same page. I took his hand, let him pull me up. His palm was warm, calloused, the hand of someone who'd built empires and destroyed them, the hand that had pulled me from fire. My phone buzzed, finally charged. A text from an unknown number. Tick-tock, little Romano. You have 48 hours to open the box, or we open your mother instead. D. Alessandro read it over my shoulder. I felt him go absolutely still. Change of plans, he said, his voice deadly calm. We're getting that box tonight. The security facility sat in the financial district like a concrete fortress, all cameras and reinforced steel. At 2 a.m, it looked even more imposing, a monument to secrets people paid to keep buried. This is insane, I muttered as Alessandro bypassed the security panel with practiced ease. We're breaking into a private vault. We're not breaking in. You have legal access. He held the door open, scanning the empty lobby. I'm just helping you exercise it at an unconventional hour, with illegally obtained access codes. Details. He guided me toward the elevator, with a hand on my lower back. The touch was becoming familiar. Dangerous. I should have pulled away, didn't. The elevator descended into the basement level 3 floors of climate-controlled vaults that held everything from jewelry to incriminating documents. The kind of place where the wealthy stored the skeletons they couldn't afford to burn. Box 347, Alessandro said, checking his phone. Section C. We moved through sterile hallways, our footsteps echoing on polished concrete. Security cameras tracked our progress, but Alessandro seemed unconcerned. Either he'd disabled them or he didn't care who saw us. I suspected the latter. Section C was at the end of the hall, behind another locked door that Alessandro opened with a keycard that definitely wasn't his. Inside, walls of numbered boxes stretched from floor to ceiling, each one a capsule of someone's carefully guarded truth. 347 was at eye level, small, unassuming. Your fingerprint, Alessandro said, stepping back. Whenever you're ready. My hand trembled as I reached for the biometric scanner. This box held something my father had died for, something men were willing to kill for, and I had no idea what it was. The scanner beeped. Green light. The lock clicked open with mechanical finality. I pulled the drawer out slowly, half expecting something dramatic, gold bars, weapons, photographs of scandals. Instead, there was a single USB drive and a sealed envelope with my name written in my father's handwriting. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, refusing to cry in front of Alessandro. Take them, he said gently. We'll look at them somewhere safe. I grabbed both items, shoved them in my jacket pocket. The envelope felt heavier than paper should. That's when the lights went out. Move. Alessandro's voice cut through the darkness, urgent and low. His hand found mine, pulling me toward where the door should be. But the door was already opening. Flashlight beams cut through the black, disorienting and blinding. 3 men, maybe 4. I couldn't tell through the chaos of shadows and adrenaline. Well. Dante's voice echoed from somewhere in the darkness. Brother. How predictable. Alessandro pushed me behind him, his body a wall between me and the lights. Dante. I'd say this is a surprise, but you've never been subtle, and you've never been smart. Footsteps approached. You really thought I wouldn't have this place monitored? The moment Elena's fingerprint hit that scanner, I got an alert. Then you know we have what you want. I know you have what Lorenzo wants. What I want is much simpler. The footlights steadied, and I could finally see Dante's face. He looked like a darker version of Alessandro. Same bone structure, same predatory grace, but with cruelty, where Alessandro had control. I want the drive. I want the girl. And I want you to finally understand that your protection means nothing anymore. You're starting a war you can't win. Am I? Dante smiled. Lorenzo is old, tired. The family respects power, not sentiment. And you've been gone for 3 years, Alessandro. You think they remember you? Fear you? He laughed. They've moved on. I've made sure of it. Alessandro's hand tightened on mine. A warning. Or maybe a promise. The drive, Dante said, extending his hand. Now. No. My voice surprised me. Steady despite the terror clawing at my ribs. Dante's attention shifted to me, his eyes reflecting the flashlight beams, like an animal's. Excuse me? You heard me. I stepped out from behind Alessandro, ignoring his sharp intake of breath. You want this drive? Tell me what's on it. Tell me why my father died for it. Elena. Alessandro's warning was soft, but I was done being protected. Done being a pawn in games I didn't understand. Tell me, I repeated, or I destroy it right here. Dante studied me with new interest. You have more spine than I gave you credit for. Your father would be proud. He tilted his head. The drive contains financial records, transactions Lorenzo made over the past 20 years, arms deals, money laundering, bribes to judges, politicians, police chiefs. Everything the FBI would need to dismantle the Corelli empire. My blood went cold. My father was going to testify. Your father was going to destroy us all. Dante's voice hardened. And then hide behind witness protection while we burned. So yes, Elena. He died for that drive, and he would have died slower if Lorenzo had gotten his hands on him first. Alessandro had gone completely still beside me. You knew, he said to Dante. You knew what was on the drive when you told me to burn the warehouse. Of course I knew. Dante's smile was razor sharp. But I couldn't tell Lorenzo that his golden boy was losing his nerve. That you were asking too many questions about the morality of our business decisions. He moved closer. So I let you think it was about skimming. Let you believe you were doing the right thing. And you killed a man trying to bring us down. Ironic, isn't it? The words hit Alessandro like physical blows. I felt him flinch. Felt the tremor that ran through his frame. You used me, he whispered. I saved you, Dante corrected. You were getting weak, conscience-stricken. This way, you got to leave with your honor intact. The dutiful son, exiled for following orders. I wanted to reach for Alessandro, but Dante's men had closed in, weapons drawn. The drive, Dante repeated. Last chance. My fingers closed around it in my pocket, next to my father's letter. And then I did something either incredibly brave or catastrophically stupid. I swallowed the USB drive. The reaction was immediate. Dante's face contorted with rage. Alessandro made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Well, I said, my throat burning from the hard plastic. I guess you'll have to kill me for it now. But that means cutting me open, getting messy. Explaining to Lorenzo why you murdered the daughter of a man he already killed. How do you think that plays out for you, Dante? The silence that followed was deafening. Then Alessandro moved, faster than I'd ever seen anyone move, his gun appearing from nowhere and pressing directly against Dante's temple. Here's what's going to happen, Alessandro said, his voice terrifyingly calm. We're walking out of here, and if any of your men move, I paint this vault with your brains. Understand? Dante's jaw clenched. But he nodded. Smart boy, Alessandro murmured. Then to me, walk. Don't run. Don't look back. I walked. Behind us, I heard Dante's voice, cold with promise. This isn't over, brother. It never is, Alessandro replied. And then we were running. We didn't speak until we were 15 miles outside the city. Alessandro, driving like demons, were chasing us. Maybe they were. That, he finally said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, was the most reckless, idiotic, brilliant thing I've ever witnessed. I panicked. My throat still burned from swallowing the drive. It seemed like a good idea at the time. You understand it has to come out, right? We need what's on that drive. I'm aware. Heat flooded my face. Can we not discuss the logistics right now? He almost smiled. Almost. Fair enough. We'd abandoned the Mercedes, too recognizable, and stolen a nondescript Honda from a parking garage. Alessandro had hot-wired it in under 30 seconds, which raised questions I didn't have the energy to ask. Where are we going? I asked instead. Somewhere Dante won't think to look. He took a turn onto a rural highway, leaving the city lights behind. A cabin. Off-grid. No electronics, no records. I bought it under a fake name 6 years ago. Why? Because men like me need places to disappear. His voice was hollow. Or places to die quietly. The words hung heavy between us. I thought about what Dante had revealed, how Alessandro had been manipulated, used, turned into the weapon that killed my father, how he'd lived with that guilt for 7 years, thinking he'd done the right thing. It wasn't your fault, I said quietly. Don't. The word was sharp. Don't absolve me because you feel sorry for me. I pulled the trigger, Elena. Dante's manipulation doesn't change that. But you didn't know. I didn't ask enough questions. He cut me off. I didn't push back. I took orders and executed them because it was easier than admitting what my family really was. He glanced at me, his eyes devastated. You want to hate me? Hate me for that. For choosing convenience over conscience. I didn't know what to say. Because he was right, there was a part of me that would always hate him for that night. For the scars. For the nightmares. But there was another part, growing larger by the hour, that recognized the haunted look in his eyes, the same look I saw in my own mirror. We were both ghosts of that fire. The cabin appeared after another hour of driving, a small structure hidden among trees, with weathered wood and a porch that sagged slightly. It looked forgotten. Perfect. Alessandro killed the engine, sat in the darkness for a moment. There's a generator out back. I'll get it running. Make yourself comfortable. Alessandro. Please. His voice cracked on the word. Just give me a minute. I need a minute. I watched him disappear around the cabin, his shoulders rigid with tension. The man who'd held a gun to his brother's head. The man whose hands had trembled in the car. The man who'd saved me twice now. Inside, the cabin was sparse but clean. Someone had been maintaining it. Alessandro, probably, during his exile. There was a wood stove, a single bed, a table with 2 chairs, everything necessary for survival and nothing more. I pulled out my father's letter with shaking hands. The envelope was yellowed with age, sealed 7 years ago and waiting. I broke the seal carefully, as if rough handling might destroy whatever truth was inside. My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I've done, not just to myself but to you and your mother. I thought I could play their game and win. I was wrong. The drive contains enough evidence to destroy the Corellis. Use it wisely, or don't use it at all. That's your choice to make, not mine. I have no right to ask you to finish what I started. But there's something else you need to know. Something I should have told you years ago. Your mother wasn't my first wife. I had another family once. A son. Lorenzo Corelli's men killed them both when I refused to work for him. That's when I became his. When I started gathering evidence, when I began living for revenge instead of love, then I met your mother. Had you. And suddenly revenge didn't matter as much as protecting what I'd found. I tried to stop. Tried to walk away. But Lorenzo doesn't let people walk away. Alessandro Corelli was there the night of the fire. He's the one who said it, but he's also the one who pulled you out. I saw him, Elena, through the smoke. I saw his face when he realized you were inside. He was horrified. I don't expect you to forgive him. But I need you to understand he's not like the others. There's something human left in him. Something good. If you're in danger, if Dante or Lorenzo comes for you, Alessandro is the only one who might help. Trust him if you must, but never forget what he is. I love you. I'm sorry. Be braver than I was. Dad. The letter fell from my hands. I had a brother, past tense, murdered before I was even born. My father had been someone else entirely, a man driven by grief and vengeance, who'd used my existence to anchor himself to something beyond revenge. And Alessandro. My father had known. In those final moments, he'd seen Alessandro save me and had used his last breath to ask him to keep doing it. The door opened. Alessandro stood in the doorway, backlit by moonlight, his expression unreadable. "Generators running," he said. Then, noticing my face, "What's wrong?" I handed him the letter silently. He read it slowly, his expression shifting from confusion to understanding to something that looked like devastation. "You had a brother," he whispered. "So did you." I stood, my legs unsteady. "Dante killed him, didn't he? That's why you really left. You found out Dante was the one who murdered my father's first family." Alessandro's silence was confirmation enough. "How long have you known?" I asked. 2 years. His voice was barely audible. "I found the order in Lorenzo's files. Dante's signature. He was 18. It was his first kill." He looked at me with eyes full of anguish. "I'm sorry. I should have told you. Why didn't you? Because what good would it do? Your brother is still dead. Your father is still dead. I still burned down that warehouse." He took a step toward me. "All I could do was make sure you stayed alive, that you got to have the life they didn't." I was crying now, hot tears streaming down my face. For my father, for the brother I'd never known, for Alessandro, trapped in a family that destroyed everything it touched. I don't know how to feel about you, I admitted. I don't know if I should hate you or what. The question hung between us, charged with something dangerous. Or trust you, I finished. Alessandro closed the distance between us, his hand coming up to cup my scarred cheek. The gesture was achingly gentle. Don't trust me, he said roughly. I don't deserve it. Then what do you deserve? His thumb traced the edge of my scar. Your hatred, your fear, anything but this. Whatever's happening between us. Whatever made you swallow a USB drive to protect evidence against my family. Whatever made me hold a gun to my brother's head to save you. His voice dropped to a whisper. Whatever's making me want to kiss you right now, even though I have no right. My breath caught. Then don't, I said. But I didn't move away. Neither did he. And when his phone buzzed, shattering the moment, we both knew something had shifted. Something irrevocable. Alessandro checked the screen. His face went white. What? I demanded. He turned the phone toward me. A video. My mother, tied to a chair, tears streaming down her face, and Dante's voice, cold and clear. You have 12 hours, the drive for her life. Don't make me ask twice. I watched the video 3 times before my brain would accept what I was seeing. My mother, bound, terrified, a purple bruise blooming on her left cheek. I'll kill him. My voice sounded distant, disconnected from my body. I'll kill him myself. Alessandro was already moving, pulling weapons from hidden compartments in the cabin walls. Guns, knives, things I didn't have names for. An arsenal disguised as rustic simplicity. You're not killing anyone, he said, his voice clinical. Controlled. The tone of a man compartmentalizing to function. You're staying here while I handle this. Like hell I am. Elena. That's my mother. I grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at me. You think I'm going to hide in a cabin while Dante does God knows what to her? While you walk into whatever trap he's set? It's definitely a trap. I don't care. You should. He pulled away, checked the magazine on a Glock with practiced efficiency. Dante wants you dead, and the drive destroyed. Your mother is bait. The moment we show up, he'll kill all 3 of us. So what's your plan? Let her die? My plan is to keep you alive. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw real fear in them. Not for himself, for me. Your father asked me to protect you. That's what I'm doing. My father is dead, and my mother is about to be, unless we do something. We can't give him the drive. Do you understand that? The moment Dante has that evidence, he owns everything. He can blackmail Lorenzo into retirement, take over the family, and eliminate anyone who threatens him. Alessandro set the gun down, ran both hands through his hair. Including us. Then we make a copy. There's no time. Even if we could get the drive out of you safely, we'd need specialized equipment to access it, copy it, encrypt it. We have 12 hours. Most of that will be spent getting back to the city. I sank into one of the chairs, my mind racing through impossible scenarios. Every option ended with someone dead. There has to be a way, I whispered. Alessandro crouched in front of me, his hands resting on my knees. The touch was grounding, warm. I have an idea, he said slowly, but you're going to hate it. Tell me. We give him a fake drive, something that looks identical but contains garbage data. Doctored financial records that lead nowhere. His thumbs trace small circles on my kneecaps. I have a contact who can make one in 4 hours. We swap it, get your mother, and disappear before Dante realizes he's been played. And when he figures it out, we're already gone. New identities, new lives. You, me, your mother somewhere Dante can't reach. The weight of what he was suggesting settled over me. You'd leave? Abandon your family permanently? I left 3 years ago. This just makes it permanent. His expression was resolute. Besides, they stopped being my family the moment they started hurting innocent people. I'm not innocent. My father tried to destroy them. Your father tried to stop them from destroying others. There's a difference. Alessandro stood, pulling me up with him. And you're the most innocent person in this entire mess. You didn't choose this. Any of it. I thought about the letter. About my unknown brother. About 7 years of nightmares and scars, and rebuilding a life from ruins. Neither did you, I said softly. Not really. They raised you in this. Made you into a killer. You can say it. His smile was bitter. That's what I am, Elena. What I'll always be. New identity doesn't change that. Maybe not. But it could give you the chance to be something else. Something flickered in his eyes. Hope, maybe, or the death of it. His phone buzzed again. Another video. This time, Dante was in frame, standing behind my mother. His hand rested almost gently on her shoulder. Almost. "Tick-tock, brother," he said to the camera. "I'm getting bored. And when I get bored, I get creative." He pulled out a knife, let it catch the light. Should I start with fingers? Or something more visible? The video cut off. I was going to be sick. Alessandro caught me as my knees buckled, held me against his chest. I could hear his heart racing, feel the tension coiled in his muscles. "Call your contact," I said into his shirt. "Make the fake drive. We're doing this. Elena." Now Alessandro. Before I change my mind. The next 4 hours were the longest of my life. Alessandro made 3 calls in rapid succession, speaking in Italian too fast for me to follow. Then he disappeared outside, returning with a laptop and equipment that definitely hadn't been in the cabin before. "Buried cash," he explained at my questioning look. "I have them scattered around the property. You really did plan to die here. Or live here. Hasn't been decided yet." He opened the laptop, his fingers flying over keys. "My contact is sending the doctored files now. We'll load them onto a duplicate drive, age it to match, and pray Dante doesn't check it immediately. And the real drive? Stays in you until we're safe. Then we figure out what to do with it." I watched him work. This man who'd killed my father and saved my life, who'd held a gun to his brother's head without hesitation, who was now risking everything to save my mother. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. His hands stilled on the keyboard. "You know why?" "I don't, actually." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Because 7 years ago, I pulled a half-dead girl out of a burning warehouse, and when I looked at her face, covered in ash and blood, I thought she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I knew, in that moment, that I'd just destroyed something I'd never be able to fix." My breath caught. "You've been watching me ever since," I said. "Not just to protect me." "No." He turned to face me, his expression raw. "Not just to protect you. Also because I'm selfish. Because seeing you survive, watching you rebuild, knowing you were out there living despite what I did, it was the only proof I had that I wasn't completely irredeemable. Alessandro, I'm in love with you." The words came out rough, almost angry. "I have been since that night, and I know it's wrong. I know I have no right, but you asked why I'm doing this, and that's why. Because the thought of you suffering one more second because of my family makes me want to burn it all down myself." The confession hung between us like a live wire. I should have been horrified. Should have rejected it. Rejected him. Instead, I crossed the space between us and kissed him. His surprise lasted maybe half a second. Then his hands were in my hair, his mouth desperate and hungry against mine. 7 years of guilt and longing compressed into a single moment. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes searched mine. "This doesn't fix anything," I whispered. "I know. I might still hate you tomorrow. I'm counting on it. But right now..." His phone rang, shattering the moment. He answered, listened, his expression going carefully blank. Then, "Understood. We'll be there." He ended the call, looked at me with eyes full of dread. "That was Dante," he said quietly. He moved up the timeline. "We have 2 hours. Why?" "Because Lorenzo found out about the exchange. And he's coming too." My blood turned to ice. "Both of them?" "Family reunion." Alessandro's smile was razor sharp. This just became infinitely more complicated. "Can we still?" "We don't have a choice." He handed me the fake drive, now identical to the original. "So we improvise, we adapt, and we pray." "I'm not very good at praying." "Neither am I." He pulled me close, pressed his forehead against mine. "But I'm excellent at not dying, so stick with me. Promise?" "Promise." Outside, thunder rumbled. The first drops of rain began to fall. And somewhere in the city, my mother waited while 2 monsters fought over a truth that could destroy them all. We had 2 hours. It would have to be enough. The meeting place was an abandoned shipping yard on the waterfront, of course it was. Every Mafia confrontation seemed to require dramatic ambiance and the proximity of water for body disposal. "Stay behind me," Alessandro said for the 3rd time as we approached the warehouse Dante had specified. Rain hammered the metal roof, creating a percussion that felt ominous. "And if shooting starts, you run. Don't look back. Don't be a hero." "What about my mother?" "I'll get her out, I promise." "Your promises are starting to pile up." His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. We both knew the odds of everyone walking away from this were slim. The warehouse was exactly what I expected. Concrete floors, rusted machinery, shadows deep enough to hide entire armies. Dramatic lighting courtesy of a few hanging bulbs that swung in the draft, casting everything in noir contrast. Dante stood in the center of the space, flanked by 6 armed men. My mother sat in a chair behind him, still bound, but alive. Her eyes found mine across the distance, and I saw relief war with terror on her face. Brother. Dante's smile was poison. And the lovely Elena. How domestic. Where's Lorenzo? Alessandro asked, his hand resting casually on the gun at his hip. Coming. He wanted to make an entrance. Dante's attention shifted to me. Did you bring what I asked for? I held up the fake drive, my hand remarkably steady, considering my heart was trying to escape my chest. My mother first. That's not how this works. Then we don't have a deal. I was surprised by how calm I sounded, how much I'd learned to mirror Alessandro's controlled exterior. You want this? Prove. My mother walks away. Dante studied me for a long moment. Then he gestured to one of his men, who cut my mother's bonds and hauled her to her feet. She stumbled toward us, and I moved to meet her halfway. Elena, no! Alessandro's warning came too late. The trap sprang with mechanical precision. Doors I hadn't noticed slammed open. More men poured in, surrounding us in seconds. And from the eastern entrance, Lorenzo Corelli arrived like a vengeful god, his silver hair perfectly styled despite the late hour. Did you really think, Lorenzo said, his voice carrying across the warehouse, that I wouldn't know about this little exchange? That my own sons would meet here without my knowledge? My mother reached me, and I pulled her close, positioning myself between her and the weapons now pointed in our direction. Father, Alessandro's voice was carefully neutral. This isn't your concern. Everything involving my family is my concern. Lorenzo moved closer, his eyes cold. Especially when it involves evidence that could destroy everything I've built. Everything you've stolen, I corrected before I could stop myself. Everything you've murdered for. Lorenzo's attention swung to me, and I understood why men feared him. There was nothing human in those eyes, just calculation and hunger. Antonio's daughter, he said softly. You have his spirit. It's what got him killed. You mean Dante's order got him killed? I glanced at Dante, who'd gone very still. Or did you think I wouldn't figure out you were the one pulling the strings 7 years ago? That you manipulated Alessandro into carrying out your dirty work? The temperature in the warehouse dropped. Lorenzo looked at Dante. Dante looked at Alessandro. Alessandro looked at me like I'd just set off a bomb, which, I realized with dawning horror, I had. Explain, Lorenzo said to Dante. It's not, Dante started. The truth, Alessandro interrupted, his voice like steel. For once in your life, tell him the truth. Dante's face contorted with rage. Fine, yes, I knew what Antonio Romano was planning. I knew about the evidence, and I knew if you found out, you'd want him turned, not killed, made into an asset. He took a step toward Lorenzo. But he was a liability. He would have destroyed us the first chance he got. So I made sure Alessandro thought it was about money, made sure the problem was eliminated. You made me a murderer, Alessandro said quietly. You used me. I saved you from becoming soft. Dante's voice rose. You were asking questions, doubting orders. Another year and you would have walked away, just like you eventually did anyway. Lorenzo was silent, his expression unreadable. Then, the drive. Now. I clutched it tighter. No, Elena, my mother whispered. No, I repeated louder. This ends tonight. All of it. Your empire, your secrets, your hold over people like my father who just wanted to live without blood on their hands. You're brave, Lorenzo acknowledged. Stupid but brave. He nodded to one of his men. Take it from her. The man moved forward. Alessandro's gun appeared, pressed against the man's temple. Touch her and die. Alessandro, Lorenzo's voice carried warning. You're choosing her over family? You stopped being my family when you turned me into your weapon. Alessandro's hand was rock-steady. When you made Dante into a monster and called it legacy. When you built an empire on the graves of good people. Good people? Lorenzo laughed. There's no such thing. Only people who haven't been tested yet. Then test this. Alessandro shifted, his gun now pointed at Lorenzo. Let them go. Elena, her mother, they walk away. Tonight. Forever. And I'll give you the drive. You're bluffing. You won't shoot me, won't I? Something deadly entered Alessandro's voice. I killed a man for you once. Destroyed a life I can never repair. You really think I won't put a bullet in you to save her? Time seemed to stop. Lorenzo and Alessandro faced each other across decades of complicated history. Father and son, mentor and weapon, creator and creation. Then Dante moved, pulling his own gun. Enough of this. He aimed at my mother. Give me the drive or I start with her. My mother whimpered. Everything happened at once. I threw the fake drive to Dante. Alessandro fired at Lorenzo. Dante fired at my mother. And I learned what it meant to watch your world explode in real time. The bullet meant for my mother hit Alessandro. Instead he'd moved, impossibly fast, putting himself between Dante's gun and us. He went down hard. My scream echoed off concrete and steel. Lorenzo clutched his shoulder, Alessandro's shot having found its mark but not lethally. And Dante stood there, the fake drive in his hand, smile triumphant until Lorenzo's remaining men turned their guns on him. Did you really think, Lorenzo said, his voice tight with pain, that I didn't know about your little coup attempt? That I haven't been watching you plot against me for months? Dante's face went white. You wanted my empire? Lorenzo continued. You can have it. From a cell. Or a grave. Your choice. I wasn't listening. I was on the ground beside Alessandro, my hands pressed against the bullet wound in his chest, blood hot and slick between my fingers. No, 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 I chanted. Don't you dare die on me. His eyes found mine, already glazing. Promise you'll run. Shut up. Save your strength. Elena. His hand reached for my face, left a streak of red across my cheek. I'm sorry. For everything. You can apologize later, when you're not bleeding out. His smile was soft, sad. Liar. Behind us, chaos erupted. Lorenzo's men subduing Dante. My mother crying. Sirens in the distance, someone had called the police. But all I could see was Alessandro's blood, pooling on concrete, stealing him away from me. I forgive you, I whispered. Do you hear me? I forgive you. His eyes closed. Alessandro. His chest rose once. Twice. Stopped. And the warehouse filled with a sound I didn't recognize as my own voice, screaming his name into the rain-hammered darkness. They say time stops when someone you love dies. They're wrong. Time becomes liquid. Elastic. Every second stretches into eternity, while simultaneously racing past too fast to grasp. I felt Alessandro's pulse disappear beneath my fingers, felt the precise moment his chest stopped fighting for breath, felt the world tilt sideways as paramedics, where had they come from, pulled me away from his body. No! I fought against the hands restraining me. Let me go. He needs. Ma'am, we need to work. Let us work. They surrounded him like a swarm, all practiced efficiency and medical jargon I couldn't process. Someone was doing chest compressions. Someone else had an oxygen bag. The scene looked choreographed. Surreal. I stood there, covered in his blood, while my mother held me and the police swarmed the warehouse like ants on spilled sugar. Lorenzo was being loaded into an ambulance, his shoulder wound apparently not life-threatening. Dante was in handcuffs, screaming something about lawyers and rights and betrayal. I didn't care about any of it. Clear. The paramedic's shout cut through my haze. Alessandro's body jerked with the defibrillator's shock. Nothing. Again. Clear. Another jolt. Another failure. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the image of his eyes closing, his last words hanging between us like unfinished business. Elena. My mother's voice was gentle. We should go. Let them. I'm not leaving him. Sweetheart. I said I'm not leaving. The third shock brought him back. His chest rose with a desperate, rattling gasp. The monitor's flat line became a rhythm again, erratic, weak, but there. We've got a pulse, someone shouted. Let's move, people. They loaded him onto a stretcher with brutal efficiency, already moving toward the waiting ambulance. I tried to follow, but a police officer stepped into my path. I need to ask you some questions. Get out of my way. Ma'am, this is a crime scene. I don't care. Something in my voice made him step back. Something raw and wild and beyond reason. That man just died for me. So either arrest me or let me go, but don't try to stop me from getting in that ambulance. The officer looked at his partner. Some silent communication passed between them. Go, he said. But we'll need a statement later. I was already running. The hospital was a blur of fluorescent lights and antiseptic smell and waiting rooms that all looked identical. They wouldn't let me into surgery family only, they said. And I had no legal claim to him. No legal claim to the man who'd saved my life twice, killed my father, confessed his love, and taken a bullet meant for my mother. My mother sat beside me in the surgical waiting room, her hand clasped in mine. She hadn't asked questions yet, hadn't demanded explanations for why we'd been in a warehouse surrounded by dead criminals and her daughter's hands covered in someone else's blood. She just held on. He's the one, isn't he? She finally said. From the fire. I nodded, not trusting my voice. And you love him. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. I don't know. Maybe. I shouldn't. But love doesn't follow rules, Elena. She squeezed my hand. Your father loved me despite knowing it put us in danger. I loved him despite knowing what he was involved in. Sometimes the heart chooses impossible things. He killed Dad. I know. Her voice was infinitely sad. I've known for years. Suspected, at least. Your father told me, before the end, that the Corellis would come, that when they did, I should look for the one with regret in his eyes. My breath caught. He knew Alessandro would save me. He counted on it. She turned to face me fully. Your father spent his last years trying to destroy evil men, but he spent his last moments trying to save you. That's what love does. It makes us better than our worst choices. Tears I'd been holding back finally broke free. My mother pulled me close, and I cried into her shoulder like I was 16 again, burning and terrified and wondering why I'd survived when everything else had turned to ash. Hours passed. Dawn crept through the windows, painting everything in shades of gray. A surgeon finally emerged, still in scrubs, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. Family of Alessandro Corelli? I stood so fast the chair scraped. How is he? The surgeon looked between us, clearly trying to figure out the relationship. Are you? I'm his fiancé, I lied without hesitation. Tell me. If he doubted me, he was too tired to pursue it. He's alive, barely. The bullet missed his heart by centimeters, but collapsed his left lung and nicked an artery. We've repaired what we can, but the next 48 hours are critical. He lost a lot of blood. Can I see him? ICU, room 447, 10 minutes. That's all I can give you. I was moving before he finished speaking. Alessandro looked smaller in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines that beeped and hissed and monitored every struggling breath. His face was pale, almost gray, and tubes snaked from his body like mechanical vines. But his chest rose and fell. He was alive. I sank into the chair beside his bed, took his hand carefully, avoiding the IV lines. You're an idiot, I whispered. Taking a bullet like that. Playing hero. No response, just the steady rhythm of machines. I meant what I said, about forgiving you. My voice cracked. I need you to know that. Because I realized something tonight. My father spent 7 years trying to destroy the Corellis. But you spent 7 years trying to save me. And maybe that's worth something. His fingers twitched in mine. Barely perceptible, but there. I'm not going anywhere, I continued. The police want statements. Lorenzo wants revenge. Dante wants us dead. And there's still a USB drive in my stomach with enough evidence to burn your entire family to the ground. But none of that matters if you don't wake up. So you need to fight. Do you hear me? Fight. The door opened. A nurse entered, sympathy in her eyes. Time's up. Honey, 1 more minute, please. She hesitated, then nodded. 1 minute. I leaned close, my lips brushing Alessandro's ear. I think I love you too, I whispered. And I'm terrified of what that means. But we're going to figure it out, together, so don't you dare leave me now. I pressed a kiss to his forehead, tasting salt and antiseptic. When I pulled back, his eyes were open. Just barely. Just enough. And his lips moved, forming words I had to lean closer to hear. Marry me. I laughed through tears. You're delusional from blood loss. Marry me, he repeated, stronger. His hand tightened on mine. Make, honest man, of me, Alessandro. Promise. His eyes were fierce despite the pain glazing them. Promise you'll consider it. The machines beeped faster. The nurse rushed back in. You need to leave. Now. His blood pressure. But I was already moving. Already at the door. Alessandro's impossible proposal ringing in my ears. I looked back once. He was watching me. And despite everything, the pain, the machines, the nearness of death, he smiled. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Then the nurses swarmed, and I was ushered out, back to the waiting room where my mother and a very tired-looking detective were waiting. Miss Romano, the detective said. We need to talk about what happened tonight. I touched my stomach, where the real drive still waited. Yes, I said. I think we do. The FBI conference room smelled like stale coffee and desperation. 3 days had passed since the warehouse. 3 days of police interviews, federal agents circling like sharks, and sleeping in hospital chairs while Alessandro fought infection and pneumonia and his own body's rebellion against survival. 3 days of holding a secret that could destroy an empire. Miss Romano. Agent Victoria Chen sat across from me, her expression professionally neutral. Let's go through this one more time. You're telling me you have physical evidence, actual documentation of the Corelli family's criminal activities? Yes. And this evidence is currently… where, exactly? I glanced at my lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Ruth who'd appeared mysteriously the morning after the shooting, claiming Alessandro had her on retainer for emergencies. Given that she'd immediately negotiated immunity for both my mother and me, I wasn't complaining. Ruth nodded slightly. In my digestive system, I said. Agent Chen's poker face cracked. I'm sorry, what? I swallowed a USB drive. It's still in transit. The other agent in the room, Martinez, built like he could bench press a car, choked on his coffee. You swallowed evidence, Chen said slowly, to prevent Dante Corelli from destroying it. Yes. And you didn't think to mention this during your first 3 interviews? I was busy making sure my mother was safe, and that Alessandro didn't die. I met her gaze steadily. Priorities. Chen leaned back, exchanging glances with Martinez. Okay. Assuming we can recover this drive. When we recover it, Ruth interjected. My client is cooperating fully. What exactly is on it? Financial records. 20 years of money laundering, arms deals, bribes to public officials. Names, dates, amounts. Everything you'd need to dismantle the Corelli organization. I paused. My father compiled it before he died. He was going to testify. Antonio Romano. Chen pulled out a file, flipped through it. We approached him 7 years ago. He refused witness protection, said he needed more time to gather evidence. Then he died in a warehouse, fire ruled accidental. It wasn't accidental. The words tasted like ash. Lorenzo Corelli ordered it. Dante carried it out. Alessandro. I swallowed hard. Alessandro was the weapon they used. And now you're in love with him. Chen's voice was flat. That's going to be a problem. Why? Because Alessandro Corelli has been on our radar for years. Multiple suspected murders, racketeering, conspiracy. The only reason he's not in custody right now is that he's currently in a coma. He's not in a coma, I snapped. He's recovering from taking a bullet meant for my mother. From choosing to help bring down his own family, which we very much appreciate, Martinez said carefully. But Miss Romano, you need to understand, even if Alessandro cooperates, even if he testifies against Lorenzo and Dante, he's still complicit in serious crimes. Including your father's death. The room went silent. I know what he did, I said quietly. I know what he is, but I also know he's been trying to make it right for 7 years. That has to count for something. It counts as mitigating circumstances, Ruth said. Which is why we're here to negotiate a deal. Full immunity for Alessandro in exchange for his testimony and cooperation. Chen shook her head. That's not going to happen. We can offer reduced sentencing, witness protection, but immunity? For someone with his record? Then you don't get the drive, I said. Elena, Ruth warned. No. I stood, my chair scraping against linoleum. I watched my father die trying to stop these people. I watched Alessandro almost die trying to save us. And now you're telling me that even if we hand you everything, 20 years of evidence, testimony, cooperation, you're still going to put him in prison? He broke the law, Chen said simply. Multiple laws. Repeatedly. So did my father. He was part of their organization. He helped them launder money, move shipments, evade authorities. For years. The only difference is he decided to stop. And Alessandro decided to stop when? When he realized what it was costing him. I leaned forward, hands flat on the table. When he realized that following orders blindly had turned him into the kind of man who'd burn down a warehouse without asking why. When he pulled me out of that fire and saw what blind loyalty creates. Martinez and Chen exchanged another look. We'll talk to the prosecutor, Chen finally said. No promises, but if Alessandro provides substantial assistance, if the evidence is as comprehensive as you claim, we might be able to work something out. Not good enough. Elena, Ruth said sharply. Take the deal. No, because might and something aren't guarantees. And I'm not handing over evidence that my father died for, that Alessandro almost died protecting, just so you can hedge your bets. Then what do you want? Chen demanded. Immunity for Alessandro. Full witness protection for all 3 of us, new identities. Relocation, the works. And protection during the trial, because the moment Dante realizes what we've done, he'll come after us with everything he has. That's a big ask. It's a small price for the Corelli empire. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood, gathered her files. Wait here. I need to make some calls. She left, Martinez trailing behind her. Ruth turned to me the moment the door closed. That was either brilliant or suicidal. I haven't decided which. Does it matter? It does if you're serious about this man. She studied me with sharp eyes. Are you? Because loving someone who's hurt you, who's destroyed parts of your life, that's complicated and dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. I touched my stomach, where the drive still waited. But yes, I'm serious. Even knowing what he's done, especially knowing what he's done. I met her gaze. Because I understand why he did it, and I understand what it cost him to stop. Ruth nodded slowly. Then let's hope the FBI agrees. They made us wait 4 hours. 4 hours of stale coffee and fluorescent lighting, and my mother pacing like a caged animal. 4 hours of wondering if Alessandro had woken up, if he was asking for me, if the infection had returned. 4 hours of holding my father's legacy in my gut, literally. When Chen finally returned, her expression was unreadable. We have a deal, she said, pending verification of the evidence and Alessandro's cooperation. Full immunity for him. Witness protection for all 3 of you. Protection during and after the trial. Relief flooded through me so intensely I had to sit down. There's one condition, Chen continued. Alessandro provides testimony not just about the Corellis, but about every criminal organization he's had contact with during his career. Names, operations, everything. We're talking about a complete dismantling of organized crime in this region. He'll do it, I said without hesitation. You can't promise that. You need to ask him first. Then let me see him. He's still in ICU. Let me see him, I repeated. You want your testimony? You want your empire dismantled? Then I need to talk to him. Now. Chen studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Martinez will drive you. You have 20 minutes. Alessandro was awake when I entered his room. Barely. His eyes tracked my movement with the slow precision of someone fighting through pain medication. Hey, I said softly, taking the chair beside his bed. Hey. His voice was rough, damaged. You look terrible. You died. I'm entitled to look terrible. A ghost of a smile. Fair. I took his hand, careful of the IV lines. I need to ask you something. Something important. Anything. The FBI wants your testimony. Everything. Every organization you've worked with. Every crime you've witnessed. In exchange, they're offering full immunity and witness protection for all of us. His eyes sharpened despite the medication. What did you tell them? That you'd do it. Was I wrong? He was quiet for so long I thought he'd fallen asleep. Then, if I testify, people will come after us. Dangerous people. The Corellis are just the beginning. I know. And you're still asking me to do it? I'm asking you to help me finish what my father started. I squeezed his hand. I'm asking you to choose the right thing. Finally, his thumb traced circles on my palm. You know what the right thing costs? Everything. I know. And you're still here. I'm still here. He closed his eyes, took a shuddering breath. When he opened them again, they were clear, decided. Tell them yes. I leaned forward, pressed my forehead to his. Thank you. Elena? His voice was barely a whisper. Yes? My proposal. When I was delirious. Did I actually? You did. A pause. And? I pulled back just enough to see his face. Ask me again when you're not in a hospital bed. When you can actually stand up. When we're not running from your family and planning to testify against an entire criminal empire. Is that a yes? Despite everything, the pain, the fear, the impossible future we were facing, I smiled. It's a maybe. Which is more than you deserve. He laughed, then winced, clutching his chest. Fair. The machines beeped steadily. Outside, my mother and Ruth waited. The FBI waited. A future full of trials and testimony and new identities waited. But for this moment, in this room, it was just us. 2 survivors of the same fire, finally burning it all down together. Elena? Alessandro said as I stood to leave. Yes? I love you. And I'm sorry. In that order. I kissed his forehead gently. I know. Me too. Then I walked out to give the FBI their empire, and begin destroying the one that had destroyed us first. 6 months later, the safe house in Vermont looked nothing like the penthouse Alessandro had hidden me in that first night. This was a farmhouse with creaking floorboards and a porch that overlooked mountains, all rustic charm and deliberate anonymity. New names, new lives, new everything, except the scars. Those, we kept. You're nervous. Alessandro came up behind me where I stood at the kitchen window, his arms sliding around my waist. He moved better now, though I still caught him wincing when he thought I wasn't looking. The trial starts in 3 days, I said. I'm entitled to be nervous. You've given 7 depositions. You've faced down federal prosecutors, defense attorneys, and my father's death stares. What's 3 more days? 3 more days of watching you testify against your own family. 3 more days of waiting for someone to figure out where we are. 3 more days of... He turned me around, his hands framing my face. Breathing. 3 more days of breathing. That's all we have to do. 6 months since the warehouse. 6 months since I'd handed over the USB drive finally retrieved, much to the hospital staff's amusement, and watched the FBI build a case that would make headlines for years. 6 months of watching Alessandro transform from a man haunted by his past into someone cautiously hopeful about a future. Did you hear from your mother? He asked, releasing me to pour coffee. This morning. She settled in Oregon, started working at a library. I accepted the mug he offered. She asked when we're visiting. After the trial. After everything's done. He leaned against the counter, studying me with those gray eyes that still made my breath catch. After we're sure it's safe. Safe. What a strange concept. We had federal marshals watching the property, panic buttons in every room, exit strategies planned for scenarios I didn't want to imagine. But safe? That was aspirational. Lorenzo's lawyers are claiming he had no knowledge of Dante's actions, I said. That he was an unwitting figurehead while Dante ran the actual operations. Alessandro snorted. Lorenzo hasn't been unwitting about anything since 1987, but they'll try. Throwing Dante under the bus is their best strategy. And Dante is claiming I'm lying to save myself. That you're lying for revenge. That the evidence is fabricated. He set down his mug. Standard defense tactics. I moved closer, ran my fingers along the scar visible at his collar, where surgeons had pieced him back together. Are you ready for this? Really ready? No. His honesty still surprised me sometimes. But I'm doing it anyway. That's what growth looks like, right? Doing the terrifying thing because it's right. My phone buzzed. Agent Chen's name appeared on the screen. Miss Romano. Her voice was tight. We have a situation. My stomach dropped. What kind of situation? Dante made bail 2 hours ago. We're not sure how his assets were frozen. His lawyers were scrambling, but someone posted $1 million cash. Alessandro straightened, immediately alert. Who? Chen heard him through the speaker. We're investigating. But Alessandro, Elena, you need to pack. Now. The marshals are moving you to a secondary location until we have him back in custody. He's coming for us, I said flatly. We don't know that. Yes, you do. That's why you're calling. I looked at Alessandro. How long do we have? He doesn't know where you are, Chen insisted. The location is classified. Only 5 people in the bureau know. How long? A pause. Hours, maybe, if he has help. If he's been planning this. Alessandro was already moving, pulling out bags, efficient and controlled. Tell the marshals we're ready. I ended the call, started throwing clothes into my duffel. 6 months of carefully constructed normalcy, destroyed in a phone call. Elena. Alessandro caught my wrist, stilled my frantic packing. Look at me. I did. Saw the determination in his face. The absolute certainty. We're going to be fine, he said. I've survived worse than Dante. So have you. Together, I said. We've survived together. Together, he agreed. The sound of tires on gravel made us both freeze. Too soon for marshals. Too fast. Alessandro grabbed the gun he kept hidden in the kitchen cabinet. 1 of 3 scattered throughout the house and moved to the window. Shit. He cocked the weapon. Black SUV, tinted windows. That's not federal. My heart was trying to escape through my throat. Back door? They'll have it covered. Dante's not stupid. He was scanning, calculating. Attic. There's a crawl space that leads to the barn. You go. I'll hold them off. No. I grabbed his arm. We're not doing that. We're not splitting up. Elena. No. The word came out fierce. You don't get to play hero again. You don't get to sacrifice yourself while I run. We fight together or we don't fight at all. A knock on the door. Polite. Almost friendly. Alessandro. Dante's voice carried through the wood. Brother, I know you're in there. Let's talk like civilized people. How many with him? I whispered. 4, maybe 5 visible. Probably more in the trees. Alessandro's jaw was tight. We're outgunned. Then we talk. I moved toward the door before he could stop me. Elena, don't. I opened it. Dante stood on our porch, perfectly tailored suit and a smile that belonged on a shark. 2 armed men flanked him. 3 more waited by the SUV. Elena Romano. He looked me up and down. Or should I say Sarah Mitchell? I like the new hair, by the way. Blonde suits you. How did you find us? Please. I built half the networks the FBI uses to hide witnesses. Did you really think relocation would stop me? His eyes shifted past me to Alessandro. Hello, brother. Miss me? Alessandro appeared behind me, gun leveled at Dante's chest. Leave. Now. Or I end this. With federal agents probably 5 minutes away? You shoot me, you go to prison. You lose your immunity deal, you lose her. Dante's smile widened. But I'm not here to fight. I'm here to negotiate. We have nothing to negotiate. Don't you? Dante pulled out his phone, showed us a video. Ruth, our lawyer, bound to a chair in a dark room. No, I breathed. She's alive. Uncomfortable, but alive. And she stays that way if you give me what I want. The testimony, Alessandro said flatly. You want us to recant. I want you to tell the truth. That you falsified evidence. That Elena manipulated you out of revenge for her father. That Lorenzo was innocent of everything except being a successful businessman with ambitious sons. Dante pocketed the phone. Do that, and Ruth goes free. You go free. Everyone walks away. Except your victims, I said. All the people your family has destroyed. Acceptable losses. He shrugged. Life isn't fair, Elena. Surely you've learned that by now. I looked at Alessandro, saw the war in his eyes. Ruth's life versus justice, safety versus truth. What's your answer? Dante pressed. Alessandro's hand found mine, squeezed once. Then he lowered the gun. Okay, he said quietly. You win. Relief flooded Dante's face. Smart choice. I'll have my lawyers draft the... Alessandro's fist connected with Dante's jaw so fast I barely saw it move. Dante went down hard, and Alessandro was on him instantly, gun pressed to his temple. Federal agents. The shout came from the trees. Drop your weapons. Now! Dante's men scattered. Some ran, some surrendered. Chen emerged with a full tactical team, weapons drawn. Good timing, Alessandro said, hauling Dante to his feet. Another minute, and I might have actually shot him. I stared. You knew they were coming? Chen called me directly. Before you woke up. Told me Dante had been released and that they were setting a trap. He smiled grimly. We needed him to show his hand, prove he was willing to threaten witnesses, obstruct justice. Ruth? I demanded. Safe house in Boston, never in danger. Chen signaled her team, who were cuffing Dante. We needed him to think he had leverage. I should have been relieved. Should have been grateful. Instead, I punched Alessandro's arm. Hard. Ow. What? You let me think we were actually in danger. That he was going to kill Ruth. Would you have sold it if you'd known it was fake? I wanted to hit him again. Also kiss him. Maybe both. I hate you, I said. No, you don't. Dante was being loaded into a federal vehicle, screaming about entrapment and illegal operations. Chen approached, looking satisfied. That's conspiracy to threaten a federal witness. Attempted obstruction of justice. He's not making bail again. She glanced between us. You two okay? Define okay, I muttered. Alessandro pulled me against him, his heartbeat steady under my cheek. We're fine. When's the trial? 3 days, as scheduled. Chen smiled. Should be interesting now that we have Dante on recording offering to help you commit perjury. After she left, after the tactical team cleared out, after the adrenaline faded and left us shaking, Alessandro and I stood on the porch watching the sun set over mountains. So, he said eventually, still want to marry me? I'd forgotten about that. The proposal delivered in a hospital bed, delirious and desperate. You're serious? Completely. He turned me to face him, went down on one knee despite the protest from his still healing body. Elena Romano, you swallowed evidence for me. You've forgiven the unforgivable. You've survived my family, the FBI, and 6 months of witness protection. Will you survive the rest of your life with me? That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. It's the only one you're getting. I looked at him, this complicated, damaged, brave man who'd pulled me from fire twice and was still trying to save me. Yes, I said. But only if you promise to stop taking bullets for me. Can't promise that. Then I can't promise not to punch you when you scare me. Fair trade. He stood, pulled a ring from his pocket. Simple gold band with a small diamond. I bought this 3 months ago. Been waiting for the right moment. This is the right moment? After a fake hostage situation? After surviving one more attempt from my family to destroy us. He slid the ring on my finger. After proving we're stronger than everything they throw at us. It fit perfectly. My father would have hated this, I said, looking at the ring. Probably. Alessandro kissed me softly. But I think he'd understand. The sun dipped below the mountains. Somewhere, Lorenzo and Dante sat in cells. Somewhere, my mother started a new life. Somewhere, the future waited with its trials and testimonies and uncertain endings. But here, now, with a ring on my finger and Alessandro's arms around me, I chose to believe in beginnings instead. 3 days until trial, I said. 3 days until freedom. You think it'll work? All of this? I think, Alessandro said, his gray eyes finally clear of shadows, that we didn't survive this much hell just to lose now. I kissed him as the last light faded, tasted hope and redemption, and something that felt dangerously like happy ever after. And for the first time in 7 years, I believed my scars might finally be just scars. Not warnings. Not shame. Just proof that I survived. That we both did. Together.